The legislature appropriates billions to projects, programs, and services each year, but it is rare that anyone follows up on these funds after they're given out. It appears that this is just what those in Bannock County were depending on when they endeavored to build the East Idaho Forensic Pathology Center in cooperation with Idaho State University. Allegedly, more than $850,000 in funding was fraudulently spent. This money was paid out for, quote, project costs incurred. But there's one problem. There aren't any projects to be seen. To date, there are no employees, no lab, and no operations. The money sits as a slush fund in the Bannock County coffers. So what is really going on here? How did all this transpire? And how could Idaho lawmakers hold those in Bannock County and at ISU accountable? We tackle all these questions today on Fiscal Fridays. So what was the purpose of this project anyway, and how did it come to misspending of funds? Here is the timeline as our team now understands it. In 2022, the State Board of Education, on behalf of Idaho State University, requested $900,000 from the legislature to build the new East Idaho Forensic Pathology Center by renovating a building on the ISU campus. This project was supposed to be accomplished in cooperation with Bannock County. This was supposed to lower costs and provide learning opportunities on the campus. The project was slow to roll out and faced several hurdles. A feasibility study commissioned to assess the true cost of the project determined that between nearly $9 million and $11 million would be required to renovate an ISU building, far above the expected $2 million price tag. This study did take $46,300 from the state funds provided. The project continued despite these costs, and just under $30,000 was spent from the account on miscellaneous expenses like supplies and consultants. In spite of the delays, the funds from the state were still set to expire at the end of the fiscal year on June 30th, 2023. Knowing this, Bannock County officials billed ISU for the remaining balance in the account, $850,700 for, quote, project costs incurred despite no such costs being made. After this transfer, the project died upon a vote by the Bannock County Board of Commissioners. There's no lab, no employees, and no cases, yet somehow $120,535 in expenses were drained from the account after the original expiration date. This issue became mainstream after Bannock County Commissioner John Crowder publicly expressed his concerns about the proper use of these funds in a meeting last October. The transfer was clearly done to avoid the deadline. This ties up the funding in the Bannock County coffers and also stops it from being returned to the state after they expire. Furthermore, it prevents the state from tracking how the funds are spent, spelling out potential corruption on a massive scale. We have Senator Glenita Zeiderveld and the great work of Pocatello for Accountable Government Entities, or PAGE for short, to thank for their work in revealing potential fraud here. But there are still lots of questions to answer. For one, who was involved in making the decision to transfer the funds? Bannock County Commissioner Jeff Huff, a big advocate for the pathology lab project, told IFF he doesn't really remember who suggested the transfer after previously stating that ISU recommended it. However, a recent public records request from IFF submitted to ISU revealed that it was in the plan all along to transfer any remaining balance of the funds to Bannock County. The document was drafted by ISU and signed by ISU President Kevin Satterlee and Chairman of the Bannock County Commission, Ernie Moser. But several other people were directly involved in the email chain and had knowledge of the need to make a transfer to keep the funding alive. You can find the full list of people in the companion article to this week's Fiscal Fridays at the link in the video description. Now faced with this evidence of potential malfeasance, what are lawmakers to do in 2025? All indicators seem to point to these funds being hidden from the taxpayers and turned into a type of slush fund. The law required them to return the unspent money, but they made deliberate efforts to circumvent this legal requirement. Thus, there must be action by law enforcement to investigate Bannock County and ISU, and as appropriate, charges must be filed against them. The case should also be referred to the Attorney General's office for further evaluation within their scope. Finally, the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee should press Idaho State University officials for answers as to why the project failed and why they appear to have intentionally hidden the funds. In the long term, there needs to be a larger discussion about how to hold agencies accountable for using their appropriations for which they were intended. To close, the East Idaho Forensic Pathology Center is an example of another failed government project. Though it is true that plans don't always pan out, this shouldn't allow government officials to steal taxpayer dollars. What should have happened was ISU and Bannock County should have returned the money to the state. Instead, it appears they used deceptive tactics to keep the funds and shield them from oversight. They thought they could get away with it. So we should be thankful for the citizen watchdogs holding the government accountable. Thank you for taking the time to watch this week's episode of Fiscal Fridays. If you enjoy our show, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share our content. Also, we are in the closing stages of launching our 2024 Pork Report. If you want to see the latest examples of government waste, please be sure to go to idahofreedom.org/24pork to get your free copy today.